Hi everyone, welcome to a graphics tutorial. We're going to be using InDesign as our weapon of choice today, and just to give a bit of context, what I'm showing you here is a report that we've done for a really high-end housing scheme in Liverpool. It's 10 properties, and each property has already been valued speculatively a little bit, but you know, from local experts, these properties will be worth from anywhere between 1.5 million and 2 million pound each. So obviously that's a considerable development value there. So what we've been tasked with as part of our commission is to come up with a presentation that we shall give to a panel of judges called Places Matter, and that's a thing in the UK ran by the RIBA, where they will assess a scheme basically. Now what they do is they invite the local authority, and the idea behind it is if you get the endorsement of Places Matter, then what you'll find is you'll have a much stronger argument when it comes to any resistance you get from planners and things like that, because Places Matter are considered as industry experts. So with that in mind, what we're going to do is I'm just going to talk through a presentation that I'm going to prepare. And again, the thing with these tutorials is I'm going to just add context as much as I can, and the purpose of these presentation boards and things like that. So what we're going to do, we're going to use this report as a bit of a guide. And if you see this page here, we're just going to keep the design of the boards simple. We're going to work to something similar to this, just different size images across the boards, a little bit of text, and and that's it really. So first things first, I just want to remind myself of what an A0 paper size is. I tend to stick to 3 boards when I present to most really. I think you can capture a scheme on 3 boards most of the time. What we'll do, our first board will cover the narrative of the scheme and the concept. The second board goes into the proposal, and the third board goes into precedents, just to explain where we've got our inspiration from. So you can just see there, A0 is 841 by 1189. So we'll just make a new document, custom 1189. What was it again? 841. Three boards. So just add a couple of slides in there, and just turn off facing pages. Okay. The good thing is, part of our application, we produce a report called a design access statement, so I've pretty much got everything available to me. Right, so as I said, first board will cover narrative. So think on that, I will just take the existing site, the history isn't all that relevant, the site hasn't really changed much. Actually, I think I'll take that one. Yeah, the site hasn't changed much over time, so I don't think I'll touch too much on the history of the site actually. I think some of these images are pretty useful. These are all professional shots as well, so they're very high res, so they shouldn't pixelate for an A0 board. This that I'm just copying through covers how we've identified developable areas on the site. So if I can just explain that actually quite quickly. We've got a list of building there. So what I've identified there is it's a historic building, so the original orientation and setting of this building is in that orange zone that I've identified there. So what we're suggesting with this diagram is that we've focused development to the north of the site and left the south end of the site clear of any built form, just to respect the setting of that list of building there. So I think that'll be handy to explain to the chaps at Places Matter. Right. And then on the narrative board, I do just like to explain a little bit of concept and design development. You see where the image kind of scaled up then as I tried to extend the bounding box to sort that. You just go fitting, clear frame fittings, and it just, you know, gets rid of that. Right, so we've got our site imagery there, a couple of diagrams at the top just to explain where the site is situated, and then a little bit of thinking behind how we've come up with the scheme. I'm sure we've got more sketches than that, so I'm just gonna double check in a sec. Where are the sketches? Oh, that'll be pretty good to show actually. Again, just clear that frame and setting. The good thing with InDesign is it lets everything snap into place. So I think when everything lines up, it just sits right. Tempted to push the sketch a bit more actually. quite sitting right for me. These are some of the early sketches that we did. Oh, I forgot that one in. Yeah, quite cool. So in Photoshop I've just flattened. Sorry, no, I've just flattened that. So you flattened all the layers. Just take that away with a white brush, and just for speed, just pop that on the desktop. And now what we've got is nearly our first board. Just going to strike a line across so it's in keeping with our other documentation. Project's called Walton Manor. Too much. Just pop our name on there as well. Ours is in bold. Maybe just play down our logo. There we go. Just see if we can. No, sorry. There is a paragraph. Just trying to reduce that spacing in between lines. Oh, I forgot how to do it now. Just for ease, cut and paste, just so you've got ultimate control. There we go, it's a bit better. Okay. Right, just one thing with InDesign, just want to pick up on. For me, the key to InDesign are these two arrows here. So the black arrow affects the bounding box and allows you to crop, whereas the white arrow lets you edit the image within the bounding box you've set with the black arrow. I personally think when you've mastered that, you're well on your way to cracking InDesign. The good thing is with the latest versions, everything does snap into place. So it's very easy to set out effective presentations. I find in InDesign you get smaller file sizes as well than that in Photoshop, and I wish I'd have known that when I was at uni. Nothing worse than waiting for someone to, waiting for the plotter to print a 500 meg file. Now, things like that there, where it's a bit of text from the image that we've brought that sketch in from, just for ease, I just cover that with a white box. Textbook will be to go into that and remove it from the source image, but again, we're just trying to be pretty quick with it. Now, tempted to just drop the opacity of one of those shots there and just put some text over it. So I'm just trying to find there we go. Just a little bit of text on there. Thinking behind the scheme. I won't go into the text for this. I won't bore you with the text, but there's there's the space in there. Yeah, I won't bore you with the text right now. I'm just trying to get into some InDesign basics in an effort to produce a presentation. Right, there we go. And then I noticed that I had a bit of text on development zones, which is what this board's representing. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mask portion. See, I like the way InDesign gives you the option to snap to things. I think subconsciously when everything lines up, it's just sits better. So what I'm doing here is I'm just creating a bit of a white background for me text to comfortably sit on. You want the text to be legible as well as well positioned. Alright, and if you just use the picker, when you select that text, if you select the picker and then select nearby text, it takes on the attributes of the text that you've picked. So I think we can afford to make that a touch narrower. Okay. Again, that's where you then go back to the white arrow and then try and just might run out of drawing there, but just center the site plan then between there and there. Okay, that's board one. Let's save it as Walton Manor, Places Matter, presentation. Now what I try and do is I try and keep to this sort of design philosophy then for the remaining boards. So we've got a little bit of explanation of the site through some photography. We've got its position and its context, and we just touch on the thinking behind the design. Then if we go on to the next board, we want to get into the scheme. So with this footer, you can either Control C for copy and then Control Alt Shift V for paste in place, or what's more effective is if you go in pages, you can actually jump into the master hold on. And then this should apply the footer then to all pages. There we go. Saves us copying it across, and then we know as well then across all boards it's in the right position. Okay, so then if we get into the design, so we've got some initial massing that we could show, and I should say that the purpose of the design on this scheme was to create the appearance of single story dwellings, because it's in a conservation area, it's in a very dense woodland site, so we didn't want the properties to have too much of a visual impact, so we've actually buried them into the earth, and only their uppermost story is projected past ground level, and you can see these sunken areas. They create little light wells and sort of sunken gardens, so then you'll have nice private living spaces at lower level. I think they demonstrate the scheme quite well. The thing with these presentations and similar things, when it comes to planning, you actually want to play down your designs, play down the architecture a little bit, just in an effort to play down the impact, particularly when you've got schemes that are in conservation areas. You know, there's a difference between sort of marketing shots and planning shots. So you'll notice in this instance where we are sort of playing down the scheme in an effort to demonstrate that it's low impact on what is a very green site, whereas the very same scheme could be presented for sale, for marketing, and it will be presented in a very different light. I think we can just make them a little bit narrower. We don't want them to overtake the board. Because we'll have some CGIs to drop in. Personally, I don't think the elevations do the properties any justice. So we're only gonna drop on a couple. And let the visuals do the talking. That's too big. 75. So the great thing with InDesign is you can very quickly rearrange the board. So at the minute I am just dropping everything on the page, and then I'll rearrange in a minute. So Just going to dig out the original visuals. I'm sure we've got high res ones. Yeah. Okay. And you'll notice that these are in data in. A friend of mine just helped me out with these visuals. Just it's been a busy year. So these visuals were done in Lumion, and we have got a few Lumion tutorials available as well to give you a little lift on producing these shots. Now what I have noticed is these are the originals, so I'm just going to edit these in Photoshop. So little Photoshop diversion. Notice that the shadows here and here, just for me, just a little bit overbearing. So in the latest Photoshop, you've got an amazing tool called Camera Raw Filter. If you can just lift the shadows, you can just see it just brings out so much more of the image. Just warm it up a touch as well. And if we just hit Control S, it'll just replace the previous. Now the good thing is you can then hit Control Alt Shift and F. I think. Sorry, Alt Control and F. Alt Control F, and it repeats the last filter. So you can see we've got that same effect now on that shot. Although I'd probably argue there's a little bit too dark up there as well. So we're just going to go in the Dodge tool. Change the setting to shadows and just lift the shadows away from some of these areas as well. This is the good thing. Sometimes if we do outsource our visuals, I'm quite confident that we've got the skills to make any changes ourselves if we need to. Alright, just again, this one's slightly different, so I'm just gonna give this a slightly different treatment. And just warm it up a bit, or maybe even actually, no, let's add a bit of saturation to that. What a shot that is. Okay. And then last one. Boost the colour, boost the warmth. Just take those shadows off the shot. Right, okay, they're much more impactful now. Even tempted to get rid of these SketchUp shots now as well, actually. I think personally, I think that's the best. Shot. Just noticed then it down there, it snaps to the edge there, so I'm just gonna move this across. Just make sure that snaps to the edge as well, just so that's nice in line. Okay. Another good thing you can do as well is you can copy those about and drag and drop to replace the image. You can see there's part of these images that can afford to be cropped. Okay, so I've just duplicated that to get the size correct, and then I can just go ahead and replace that shot. Although they're kind of showing the same thing now, aren't they? So where are we? Let's swap that one and then pop that one there. Yeah, that's it. Okay. So you can see that snapped to there as well. So if we can just get it all nice and flush. Okay, and then there I'm going to pop the finished site plan, which I think I have. Yeah, there we go. I might even have a better drawing than that. I'm going, where are we? Ah, there we go. You can just see our board information creeping in there, or the title block of the drawing that came from. Okay, so then if just trying to get that to hit W to turn your guides on, W to turn them off, obviously. I think if we just reduce them, the good thing about an A0 board is the scale of it's pretty big, so even though it might seem small here, that'll still be of an acceptable scale when printed at A0. Right, let's just, there we go, let's just take that past the bounding box. Pop a bit of text in. Now, InDesign, just to save RAM on your computer, set images at what's called typical display, which is quite pixelated. It allows you to navigate your pages. So like for example, this report is 42 pages long total. So with all these images being on typical display, I can navigate through quite quickly. However, now that I'm trying to get really tight into what I'm showing, I need to see this in detail. So if you right click, display performance, high quality, it then gives you it in its true form, so you know exactly what you're working with. Display, high quality. So you can see there the garage is just a little bit cropped off. Yeah, don't mind that showing there. Let's just take that to there. And just get that back to there so it all lines through. Okay. So we're getting there. Narrative concept. There's the proposal. Don't know whether that text's a bit too close there for my liking, so if we can just pinch a bit of space there, I think that's a bit better. Okay, and then oh, there we go, bit of text on the scheme. Now this little red plus sign means that we've got overset text. $24.36. $24.36. Okay. Now the text doesn't quite make it to the bottom there, so I wonder if we can just increase the spacing so that it fills. Let's go down one again. There we go. Increase the font size then. Have it set to left aligned as well. Personally, I'm just not a fan of justified text. Oh, I should get that 27.5. Oh. There we go, that'll do. I actually think all that white space there is actually not doing enough work for us, so these diagrams that we've produced are very handy. So W, get that on there, and if we just again use the white arrow to then edit the image within the bounding box, see if we can just pop our constraint diagram in between, just get a bit more information on the board without overdoing it. And then what that does is it puts our constraints next to our proposal. I think that'll help me on the day present how we've gone from that constraint to this positioning of the properties. And you'll notice on this layout as well, I've actually got the roofs of the properties finished in a green, because they will have roof gardens. But again, visually that's a trick on the eye to demonstrate that the visual impact is very low. So you can see, you can barely read the properties. Let's put that back on typical. Okay, and then last but not least, is some precedents. So we can take these from two areas. We've done a chapter on aesthetic, and we have done a chapter on precedents as well. So you can see all our precedents are earth sheltered type buildings, because as I mentioned earlier, we want the properties to seem like they're single story. So we've got them sunken into the earth. That's where we've taken some of these precedents from. So I think we'll grab all those. that's too relevant, so we'll go for that one, and that one. And then these shots are actually from our ecology section. I actually think there's a place for that on this board. You can see it that this board's pretty image heavy, whereas there's a few drawings on the others. Sorry, just forever tweaking. And I think this last board really will just be a bit of a collage of images. I think I'll name this board the Aspiration. Now, the use of precedents just allows your audience to quickly visualize what it is you're aiming for. Sometimes, I know we're presenting to a panel of experts, so they probably will be able to visualize this, but I think if you're just relying on CGIs, I think sometimes your message can be lost. So if you just show some precedent shots of built work that's inspired the scheme, it just hammers the message home. Sorry, just fiddling. Tempted to, you can see the way I've split each board in half in a way. I think I'm just going to go for something similar here actually. That's too much. Let's get it all on first. Just trying to get it to snap to that. There we go. I'm just leaving some space for some text. I think that's a powerful image, so I think we want to show that one off. Okay, then where are we? Ecology enhancement. So let's pop that in there. What was it again? What was our 2436? 2436. Okay. Where are we? Aesthetic. Or do we say we go for, yeah, we go for this one. And then select all that, pick that. Let's just pop that in there. Okay, nearly there. What I want to just do now is just add some titles to the boards, and then it's job done. So just go in the master, just take that. Left aligned. Narrative. Now what I should say is I've not covered every bit of text on these boards because I know that I'll be there to present it. So I'm just leaving prompts on each board so I know what to explain. So although these images might necessarily capture the project's narrative, I'll know that when I'm on this board, I'm sort of presenting this side of the board. I know that I need to be touching on the narrative whilst explaining the site and its context. And this is the reason why I've split the boards in half, because then I can kind of give each side a title. Vision, proposal, okay. Now you'll notice that it's not quite sitting right now. That looks a bit bizarre. And actually the image is a little bit closer to the text on the upper board. So let's just doesn't have to be perfect. There's 3 separate boards. So I'm just holding shift and the arrow keys just to speed up the nudging process. Okay, that sits well. I think you can see here from this demonstration that, you know, I do like plenty of white space, nice clean lines. I think presentations for practice, they just want to be nice and simple. I think at uni you can go a little bit too mad with it sometimes. Let's see if we can. Oh, well, that's worked well anyway, but remember, object, fitting, clear, fitting options, just to prevent that happening again. Okay, so we've sort of rearranged that so it just sits a little bit more comfortably with the rest. Okay, then what we want to do is just going back to this sort of clash here. If we just go back in the master, I think we'll pop that down there and we'll reduce the size of it. What have we got that at? 36. Okay, so not being too arrogant, the project title's still bigger than our logo. So if we dive back into this, you can then see that sits a lot better. But you know what? Probably still tempted to. Probably still tempted to drop this down. Where are we? 30. $24. There we are. That's better. And there you go. 3 presentation boards in InDesign. As ever, if you've got any questions, email us at info@studiorba.co.uk. Thank you very much.